BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
You're listening to Yellowface, the best-selling novel by Rebecca F. Kuang, a darkly funny mystery with a deeply flawed narrator. June Hayward is a young, white American writer whose promising debut novel is quietly sliding into insignificance. She's intensely jealous of her friend from Yale, Athena Liu, who by contrast has been wildly successful. This novel explores racism and cultural appropriation within a fast-paced, sharply satirical thriller, and there is strong language, some of it racist. This abridgment for BBC Sounds is read by me, Ashley Haddad. Yellowface, Episode 1. The night I watch Athena Liu die, we're celebrating her TV deal with Netflix. Off the bat, for this story to make sense, you should know two things about Athena. First, she has everything. A multi-book deal straight out of college at a major publishing house. At 27, she's published 3 novels, each one a successively bigger hit. For Athena, the Netflix deal was just another feather in her cap. Second, perhaps as a consequence of the first, she has almost no friends. I used to think that she was simply aloof, but in recent years I've developed another theory, which is that everyone else finds her as unbearable as I do. So that night, it's only Athena and me at a loud, overpriced rooftop bar. She's flinging back cocktails, and I'm drinking to dull the bitch in me that wishes she were dead. Athena and I only became friends by circumstance. We lived on the same floor at Yale our freshman year, and we ended up in all the same undergraduate writing seminars. We'd never experienced anything like kindred spirit recognition. We were just always in the same place, doing the same things, so it was convenient to be friendly. But our careers spiraled in wildly different directions after graduation. I wrote my first novel in a fit of inspiration during a year spent bored out of my skull working for Teach for America. After I'd queried nearly 50 literary agents without luck, the book was picked up by a small press named Evermore. The advance seemed like an absurd amount of money to me at the time, $10,000 up front, with royalties to come once I'd earned out. But that was before I learned Athena had gotten 6 figures for her debut novel at Penguin Random House. Evermore folded 3 months before my book went to print. My rights reverted back to me. Miraculously, my literary agent, who had signed me after Evermore's initial offer, resold the rights to one of the big 5 publishing houses for a $20,000 advance. It seemed like I had finally made it. Until my launch day drew closer, and my first print run was reduced from 10,000 to 5,000 copies, and the promised quotes from famous writers failed to materialize. I never got a second printing. I sold 2, maybe 3,000 copies total. My editor was fired during one of those publishing squeezes that happen every time the economy dips, and I got passed along to some guy named Garrett, who has so far shown so little interest in supporting the novel that I often wonder whether he's forgotten about me entirely. But that's par for the course, everyone told me. Everyone has a shitty debut experience. So why, then, do some people rocket to stardom on their first try? Athena's debut, Voice and Echo, about a Chinese-American girl who can summon the ghosts of all the deceased women in her family, was one of those rare novels that perfectly straddled the line between speculative and commercial fiction. So she accrued nominations for the Booker, Nebula, Hugo, and World Fantasy Awards, 2 of which she won. And that was only 3 years ago. She's published 2 more books since, and the critical consensus is that she's only gotten better and better. It's not that Athena isn't talented, but Athena's star power is so obviously not about her writing. It's about her. Born in Hong Kong, raised between Sydney and New York, tall and razor thin, graceful in the way all former ballet dancers are, porcelain pale and possessed of these massive, long-lashed brown eyes that make her look like a Chinese Anne Hathaway. She's unbelievable. She's literally unbelievable. So, of course, Athena gets every good thing because that's how this industry works. Publishing picks a winner. Someone attractive enough. Someone cool and young and, oh, we're all thinking it, let's just say it, diverse enough. And lavishes all its money and resources on them. Athena, a beautiful, Yale-educated, international, ambiguously queer woman of color, has been chosen by the powers that be. Meanwhile, I'm just brown-eyed, brown-haired June Hayward from Philly. And no matter how hard I work or how well I write, I'll never be Athena Liu. Athena is guzzling her second whiskey sour, and I'm on my third glass of Pinot Noir.
So, do you want to hear about the Netflix meeting? Oh my God, Junie, it was insane. I met the guy who produced Tiger King. Tiger King!
Be happy for her, I tell myself. Just be happy for her. Even just learning that Athena's signing a 6-figure option deal with Netflix means that I'll be derailed for days, unable to focus on my own work, mired by shame and self-disgust every time I see one of her books in a bookstore display. I stare at Athena's brown eyes, framed by those ridiculously large lashes that make her resemble a Disney forest animal, and I wonder, what is it like to be you? What is it like to be so impossibly perfect? To have every good thing in the world? And maybe it's the cocktails, or my overactive writer's imagination, but I feel this hot coiling in my stomach. A bizarre urge to stick my fingers in her berry-red painted mouth and rip her face apart. To neatly peel her skin off her body like an orange and zip it up over myself. We finish our drinks and leave. I think, with some relief, that this will be the end of it, but then Athena invites me over to her apartment.
Come on, she insists. I have some amazing whiskey saved precisely for this moment. You have to come try it.
I'm tired, and I'm not having that much fun. Jealousy feels worse when you're drunk. But I'm curious to see her apartment, so I say yes. I knew Athena was rich, but I hadn't processed how rich until we step into the 9th floor, 2-bedroom unit where she lives alone. 1 room for sleeping, 1 room for writing, with tall ceilings, gleaming hardwood floors, floor-to-ceiling windows, and a balcony that wraps around the corner.
So then, whiskey? Neat on the rocks or old-fashioned?
I have no clue how to drink whiskey. Whatever you're having.
Old-fashioned, then.
She darts into her kitchen. Moments later, I hear cupboards opening, dishes clanging. She's taking a while, and I really have to pee, so I wander around the living room searching for the bathroom. I notice then that the door to her writing office is wide open. I can't help but take a peek. I recognize it from her Instagram posts. Her creativity palace, she calls it. She has a huge mahogany desk with curved legs beneath a window framed by Victorian-style lacy curtains, atop which sits her prized black typewriter. Right. Athena uses a typewriter. There's a sheet of paper still in the carriage, upon which are written just 2 words, "The End." Sitting next to the typewriter is a stack of pages nearly a foot tall. Athena materializes by my side, a glass in either hand.
Oh, that's the World War I project. It's finally done.
Athena is famously cagey about her projects until they're finished. No beta readers, no interviews, no sharing snippets on social media. Even her agents and editors don't get to see so much as an outline until she's finished the whole thing. The only things she's revealed over the past 2 years are that this novel has something to do with 20th century military history, and that it's a big artistic challenge for her. Shit, I say. Congrats.
Typed up the last page this morning, she chirps. No one's read it yet.
Not even your agent? She snorts.
Jared pushes paper and signs checks. What do you think?
You want me to read it?
Well, I guess not all of it right now, she laughs. It's very long. I'm just so glad it's finished.
My fingers hover over the stack. Can I?
Sure. She nods enthusiastically. I have to get used to it being out there.
I pick a stack of 10 or 15 pages off the top and skim through them. Holy God, they're good. It all sings. It's better than anything I could write, perhaps in this lifetime.
You like it?
She asks. I don't know, I say flatly. I can't really read drunk.
Right, duh. That was stupid. Of course you don't want to.
She blinks at her glass, then at me.
Well, then do you want to just hang?
So here's me, just hanging with Athena Lou. We end up sprawled on her couch, laughing so hard our ribs ache.
We should do this more, she keeps saying. Junie, honestly, how have we never done this before?
I don't know, I say. Then suddenly it's midnight, and we're making pancakes from scratch. The pancakes are burnt and uneven, but they smell incredible, and I realize that I'm starving. I wolf one down with my hands, then look up to see Athena staring at me. I wipe my fingers, terrified I've disgusted her, but then she laughs and challenges me to an eating contest. And then there's a timer going, and we're shoveling down the gloppy, half-cooked pancakes as quickly as we can, swigging milk in between to help the bulging lumps down our throats. 7, I gasp, coming up for air. 7.
What did...
But Athena's not looking at me. She's blinking very hard, brows furrowed. One hand goes to her throat. The other frantically taps my arm. Her lips part, and out comes this muted, sickening rasp. She's choking. Heimlich. I know the Heimlich. At least, I think I do. I haven't thought about it since grade school, but I get behind her and wrap my arms around her waist and jerk my hand against her stomach, which should dislodge the pancake. Holy shit, she's skinny. But she's still shaking her head, tapping my arm. It's not coming out. I jerk in again and again. This isn't working. Athena's banging against the counters. Her face has turned purple. Athena yanks at my arm, points at my phone. Help, she mouths. Help, help. My fingers keep shaking. It takes me 3 tries to unlock my phone to call 911. They ask me what my emergency is. I'm with a friend, I gasp. She's choking. I've tried the Heimlich. It's not coming out. Athena is folded over a chair, jamming her sternum against the back, trying to perform the Heimlich on herself, but it doesn't seem to work. Nothing comes flying out of her mouth.
Ma'am, what is your location?
I don't know. I turn to Athena, but she's curled on the ground, jerking back and forth in a way that's awful to watch. I hesitate, torn between helping her and checking the door number, but then I remember the 9th floor. 907, I gasp. Please come quick. Oh my God.
An ambulance is on its way to you now, ma'am. Is the patient conscious?
I glance over my shoulder. Athena has stopped kicking. The only thing moving now is her shoulders, heaving in wild jerks like she's been possessed. Then those stop too.
Ma'am?
I lower the phone. My vision swims. I reach out and shake her shoulder. Nothing. Athena's eyes are wide, bulging open. I can't bear to look at them. I touch my fingers to her neck for her pulse. Nothing. Nothing. I give a statement. An officer offers me a ride home. I don't get home until early the next morning. I stagger into my apartment and collapse on my bed. I cry for a while, and then I fall asleep. Meanwhile, in my bag, tossed at the floor of my bed, Athena's manuscript sits like a hot sack of coals.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
You're listening to episode 2 of Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, a twisted thriller with some language that may offend. June Hayward witnessed the traumatic death of her friend Athena Liu, but she also managed to steal her astonishing literary manuscript at the same time. Athena's death didn't break my world, it just made it weirder. I go about my days as normal. I break down only once, a week after it happened. "No," says Rory when I call her at 4 a.m, weeping so hard I can barely speak. No, don't you think that for a second. Do you understand? You are not guilty for anything. You did not kill that girl. You are innocent. Do you understand? I feel like a toddler as I mumble back, "Yes, okay, yes." But that's what I need right now. A child's blind faith that the world is so simple, and that if I didn't mean to do a bad thing, then none of this is my fault. "Are you going to be okay?" Rory presses. "Do you want me to call Dr. Gailey?" "No, God, no, I'm fine. Don't call Dr. Gailey." "Okay, it's just she told us that if you were ever backsliding..." "I'm not backsliding." I take a deep breath. "This isn't like that. I'm all right, Rory. I didn't know Athena that well anyways. It's fine." I attend Athena's funeral. It's closed casket, thank God. A lot of the eulogies are in Chinese, so I sit there awkwardly. When it's my turn, Athena's mother introduces me as one of her daughter's closest friends. "Junie was there the night my Athena died," said Mrs. Liu. "She did her best to save her." That's all it takes for my tears to start flowing. "But that's a good thing," says an awful, cynical voice in my head. I don't go out those next few weeks. I stay in my apartment wearing pajamas all day. I also read. Athena was right to be excited. The Last Front, simply put, is a masterpiece. The novel is about the unsung contributions and experiences of the Chinese Labor Corps, the 140,000 Chinese workers who were recruited by the British Army and sent to the Allied front during World War I. Many were killed by bombs, accidents, and diseases. Most were mistreated upon arrival in France, cheated out of their wages, assigned to dirty and cramped living quarters, denied interpreters, and attacked by other laborers. Many never made it back home. Most grand war epics by young writers tend to read like mere imitations of grand war epics. Their authors come off as toddlers riding toy horses. But Athena's war epic sounds like an echo from the battlefield. It rings true. But it needs work. It's far from a first draft. It's not even a proper draft, really. It's more like an amalgamation of startlingly beautiful sentences, bluntly stated themes, and the occasional, "and then they travel," complete later. But she's laid out enough breadcrumbs that I can follow the trail. I see where it's all going, and it's gorgeous. It's simply breathtakingly gorgeous. So gorgeous, I can't help but give finishing it a try. It's just a lark at first, a writing exercise. I wasn't rewriting the manuscript so much as seeing if I could fill in the blanks. But then I just kept going. I couldn't stop. I work so damn hard on it. I've never worked so hard on any writing project before, not even my debut. I complete the first draft in 3 weeks. I compose an email to my literary agent, Brett Adams, who I haven't spoken to for months since I've been deleting all his polite but urgent inquiries about how my second book is going. Hey, Brett, here's the manuscript. It's a little different from the direction we discussed, but I've found a new voice, and I like it. What do you think? Best, June. Done, sent. Whoosh goes my mail app. I shut the lid and push my laptop across the desk, breathless at my own audacity. Waiting is the hardest part. I send that email on Monday. Brett doesn't get back to me until Thursday, when he lets me know he's reserved the weekend for having a look. He's done okay for me over the years. I've always felt like a bit of a lower priority for him, especially since I don't make him that much money, but he at least answers all my emails within the week and hasn't lied to me about my royalties or the state of my rights, which you hear horror stories about all the time. I think Brett was expecting I'd quietly give up on writing on my own. He finally emails me back around midnight on Tuesday. It's short. Hey, June. Wow, this is really special. I don't blame you for dropping everything to work on this project. It's a little different from your range, but this could be a great opportunity for you to grow. I don't think Garrett is right for this book. We should definitely take it out on wider submission. I'll handle that on my end. I only have a few editorial suggestions. See attached. Regards, Brett. Brett's edits are light, non-invasive. I sit down with some canned espressos and do them all over 72 hours. The words come easily to me. Revisions are usually like pulling teeth, but I'm having fun with this. Maybe because it's someone else's words I'm chopping, so I don't feel like I'm killing my darlings. Maybe because the raw material is so good, and I feel like I'm sharpening gems, trimming away the rough patches to let them shine. Then I send it back to Brett, who submits it first to Garrett, since he's technically allowed the right of first refusal. Garrett passes, just as we'd hoped. I don't think he even bothered to open the file. Brett then immediately sends the novel to 6 editors, all senior decision-makers at powerhouse publishers. And then we wait. 3 weeks later, an editor at HarperCollins takes my book to acquisitions. They phone Brett with an offer that afternoon, and the number makes my jaw drop. I didn't know people paid that much money for books. But then Simon & Schuster wants in. Then Penguin Random House, too. And then all the smaller, prestigious independent houses that somehow still exist. We go to auction. At the end of it all, the last front sells to Eden Press, a mid-size indie publisher that has a reputation for cranking out award-winning prestige fiction for more money than I dreamed I would make in a lifetime. When Brett calls to tell me the news, I lie down on my floor and don't get up until the ceiling stops spinning. The whole time I'm thinking, I've made it. I've made it. I'm living Athena's life. I'm experiencing publishing the way it's supposed to work. I've broken through that glass ceiling. I have everything I ever wanted. And it tastes just as delicious as I always imagined. I know what you're thinking. Thief, plagiarizer, and perhaps because all bad things must be racially motivated, racist. Hear me out. It's not so awful as it sounds. What I did was not easy. I did rewrite most of the book. Athena's early drafts are chaotic. This whole project is beautiful, in a way, a never-before-seen kind of literary collaboration. And so what if it was stolen? So what if I lifted it wholesale? I'll just say it. Taking Athena's manuscript felt like reparations, payback for the things that Athena took from me. Publishing moves slowly until it doesn't. The truly exciting moments, going to auction, negotiating deals, fielding calls from potential editors, choosing a publisher, are a dizzying whirlwind, but the rest involves a lot of staring at your phone and waiting for updates. The last front won't come out until 15 months after I sign my contract. Until then, there's production. My editor at Eden is Daniela Woodhouse, a deep-voiced, no-nonsense, fast-talking woman who both intimidated and intrigued me during our first phone call. Brett convinced me that at a mid-size house, I'd be a big fish in a small pond, that I'd get all the care and attention I never felt at my first publisher. Sure enough, compared to Garrett, Daniela practically coddles me. She responds to all my emails within the day, often within the hour, and always in depth. She makes me feel like I matter. When she tells me this book will be a hit, I know that she means it. I like her editorial style, too. We soften the language. We take out all references to chinks and coolies. We also soften some of the white characters. No, it's not as bad as you think. Athena's original text is almost embarrassingly biased. The French and British soldiers are cartoonishly racist. Instead, we switch one of the white bullies to a Chinese character and one of the more vocal Chinese laborers to a sympathetic white farmer. This adds the complexity, the humanistic nuance that perhaps Athena was too close to the project to see. The largest change we make is to the last third of the book. "The pacing really flags here," reads Daniela's comment. "Do we need all this context about the Treaty of Versailles? Seems out of place. Focus is not Chinese geopolitics, surely." At the end of the book, Athena's original draft is unbearably sanctimonious. Here she leaves the more engaging personal narratives behind to hit the reader over the head with the myriad ways in which the laborers have been forgotten and ignored. Daniela wants me to cut it all together. I make the cut. It's not all about pandering to authority. I do think we've made the book better, more accessible, more streamlined. The whole process takes 3 editorial rounds over 4 months. By the end, I've become so familiar with the project that I can't tell where Athena ends and I begin. I've done the research. I've lingered over every word, every sentence. What this whole experience teaches me is that I can write. No one will ever understand how much I put into this novel. If news ever breaks that Athena wrote the first draft, the whole world will look at all the work I did, all those beautiful sentences I produced, and all they'll ever see is Athena Lou. But no one ever has to know, do they? I lay the groundwork long before the novel is out, before early versions of it are off to reviewers and book bloggers. I've never made a secret of my relationship to Athena. I play up our connection. I mention her name in every interview. My grief over her death becomes a cornerstone of my origin story. I've read all her work and she mine. Often we traded ideas. See, the closer we seem, the less mysterious that resemblances to her work will appear. No one is suspicious. Athena's aloofness helps me out here. She did have other friends, according to all the Twitter eulogies I read after her funeral, but they're all spread out across different states and continents. I set up a scholarship in Athena's name at the Asian American Writers Collective's annual workshop, where Athena had spent 1 summer as a student and 3 as a guest instructor. The director, Peggy Chan, had sounded confused and suspicious when I called about Athena, but changed her tone when she realized that I was offering money. For a few weeks, it all feels like I'm in the clear. No one asks questions about how I came to my source material. No one seems to even have known what Athena was working on. One day, I see a headline from the Yale Daily News that makes my stomach drop. Yale acquires Athena Liu's drafting notes, it reads. From the opening paragraph, late novelist and Yale alumna Athena Liu's notebooks will soon become part of the Marlin Literary Archive at the Sterling Memorial Library. The notebooks have been donated by Liu's mother, Patricia Liu. Shit. Shit, shit, shit.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang. Episode 3. After stealing the draft for Athena Liu's novel and passing it off as her own work, June Hayward is enjoying the success she's always craved. But it comes with complications. Mrs. Liu's face had been so puffy from crying at the funeral, I hadn't noticed how striking she was. Now, up close, she looks so much like her daughter that it's disorienting. Junie, so good to see you. She embraces me on her doorstep. Come in. I sit down at her kitchen table, and she pours and places a steaming cup of a very fragrant tea before me. I understand you wanted to talk about Athena's things. She's so direct. I wonder for a moment if she's on to me. I cut straight to the chase. I read that you're going to donate Athena's notebooks to the Marlin Archive? I am. You don't think that's a good idea? I'm wondering if you mind telling me how you made that decision. I received an email from the librarian in charge of the project a few weeks ago, says Mrs. Liu. It seems like a public archive is a good way to let people remember Athena. Anyhow, it's not like I'm doing anything important with them. She nods to the corner. I follow her gaze, and my breath catches. The notebooks are right there, piled unceremoniously together in a big cardboard box. Have you read what's in them? Mrs. Liu sighs again. No, it's very painful. She drew so much from her childhood, from stories her father and I told her, from things in our past, our family's past. I draw a lot on my own life in my novels too, I say. I see my way in. And, well, that's sort of why I wanted to come talk to you today. I take a breath. I'll be honest with you, Mrs. Liu. I don't think putting her notebooks up for public access is a good idea. Why not? Athena was so private with her stories while she was putting them together. They draw from such painful histories. I feel like donating them to an archive would be a violation, like putting her corpse on display. My goodness. Mrs. Liu touches a hand to her mouth. Oh, my goodness. Of course, it's up to you, I say hastily. It's entirely your right to do as you like with them. I just thought, as a friend, I feel obligated to tell you. I don't think that's what Athena would have wanted. I see. Mrs. Liu's eyes are watery. Thank you, June. I never even considered. She's silent for a moment, staring at her teacup. She blinks hard. Do you want them, then? Should I say yes? I would have complete control over Athena's notes for the last front, and who knows what else. Ideas for future novels? Full drafts, even? No, Best not to get greedy. Any more and I risk leaving a trail. Mrs. Liu might be discreet, but what might happen if the Yale Daily News reports, however innocuously, that I now own all those notebooks? I couldn't, I say gently. I wouldn't feel right. Perhaps you could leave them in the family? There's no one else. Mrs. Liu shakes her head again. No, after her father went back to China, it was me and Athena. I just wouldn't trust a public archive, I say. You don't know what they'll uncover. Mrs. Liu's eyes widen. Suddenly she seems greatly disturbed, and I wonder what she's thinking about. I'll let her imagination do the rest. Oh, my goodness, she says again. I can't believe... No. She sets down her teacup with a thud. No, you're right. I will not put my daughter's soul on display. She glares at me as if I'm about to try to talk her out of it. No one will see those notebooks. No one. I stay for another half an hour before I go, making small talk and telling Mrs. Liu about how I've been doing since the funeral. But she's not interested. She's distracted. When I finally get up to go, she's staring at the boxes, clearly terrified of what lies within. One day I searched the Yale Daily News website to find that the original announcement has simply been taken down without acknowledgement. Wednesday, I have my first video conference meeting with my new publicity and marketing teams. Emily, who does publicity, and Jessica, who does digital marketing, kick things off by telling me how much they adore the manuscript. Emily clicks and double-clicks her pen. So then, the thing we wanted to ask you is, positioning. Right. Sorry, what do you mean? She and Jessica exchange a glance. Well, the thing is, this novel is set in large part in China, says Jessica. And given the recent conversations about,
cultural authenticity, Emily says.
We just want to get ahead of any potential blow-ups, says Jessica. Or pile-ons, as it were. I see what she's getting at. I am not Chinese, I say curtly, if that's what you're asking. Is that a problem?
No, no, not at all. We're just covering our bases. And you're not... anything else?
Emily winces the moment those words leave her mouth, like she knows she shouldn't have said that. I am white, I clarify. Are you saying we'll get in trouble because I wrote this story and I'm white? Both Emily and Jessica begin blinking very quickly, glancing at each other as if hoping the other will speak first.
Of course not, Emily says finally. Of course. Anyone should be able to tell any kind of story. We're just thinking about how to position you so that readers trust the work.
Well, they can trust the work, I say. They can trust the words on the page, the blood and sweat that went into telling the story.
No, of course, says Emily, and we don't mean to invalidate that.
Of course not, says Jessica. Again, we think anyone should be able to tell any kind of story. Right. I shoot off an email to Brett. They just want to be clear, he says, on how exactly they can position me. As it turns out, they want to position me as worldly. They highlight all the different places I've lived when I was little on my dad's never-ending tour as an engineer for ExxonMobil. Emily really likes the word nomad. And they suggest I publish under the name Juniper Song instead of June Hayward.
Your debut didn't reach quite the same market we're hoping for, and it's better to have a clean start. And Juniper is so unique. What kind of name is that? It sounds native, almost.
nobody talks about the difference in how Song might be perceived versus Hayward. No one says explicitly that Song might be mistaken for a Chinese name, when it's really the middle name my mother came up with during her hippie phase in the 80s. I was very nearly named Juniper Serenity Hayward. Emily helps me pitch an article about authorial identities and pen names to Electric Lit, where I explain that I've chosen to rebrand myself as Juniper Song to honor my background and my mother's influence in my life. I never lied. I never pretended to be Chinese or made up life experiences that I didn't have. And if anyone makes assumptions or connects the dots the wrong way, doesn't that say far more about them than me? Things run more smoothly on the editorial side. Daniela loves what I've done in the revisions. We only run into one wrinkle a week before my copy edit passes due. Daniela emails me out of the blue. "Hey, June, Candace suggested that we get a Chinese or Chinese diaspora sensitivity reader. Do you want us to look into things for you?" "I don't see why," I write back. "I'm pretty comfortable with the research I did." A response instantly pings my inbox. It's Candace, following up. "I feel strongly we ought to hire a reader familiar with the history and language. June is not Chinese diaspora, and we run the risk of doing real harm if we don't check any of the Chinese phrases, naming conventions, or textual recounting of racism with a reader better suited to catch mistakes." I groan. Candace Lee, Daniela's editorial assistant, is the only person at Eden who doesn't like me. Maybe she knew Athena. Maybe she's jealous I've made it big when she hasn't. Again, I'm quite comfortable with the research I did in preparation for this book. I don't find it necessary to delay things for a sensitivity read at this point in production. Send. That should be the end of it. But an hour later, it's Candace. "Dear all, I want to emphasize again how important I feel it is that we get a sensitivity reader for this project. In this current climate, readers are bound to be suspicious of someone writing outside of their lane. And for good reason. I understand this would slow down production, but an SR would protect June from accusations of both cultural appropriation and, worse, cultural leeching. It would show that June meant to represent the Chinese diaspora community in good faith." Jesus Christ. Cultural appropriation? Cultural leeching? What is her problem? I forward her email to Brett. Daniela jumps in to smooth things over. Of course they'll default to my authorial judgment. Hiring a sensitivity reader is entirely my choice, and I've made it clear that I don't want one. Daniela follows up in a private thread to inform me that Candace has been taken off the project. "I want you to know that I've had a serious conversation with Candace about respecting boundaries with authors, and I will make sure this never happens again." For a moment, I feel embarrassed. But that's nothing compared to the relief that finally, for once, my publisher is firmly on my side. And just like that, my public persona springs into being. Farewell, June Hayward, little-known author of Over the Sycamore. Hello, Juniper Song, author of this season's biggest hit. Brilliant, enigmatic, the late Athena Lou's best friend. In the months before the last front comes out, Eden's publicity team does everything it can to make sure all of America is aware of its existence. They send advanced reader copies out to other big-name authors at Eden, and a handful of best-selling writers say kind things like engrossing and a compelling voice, which Daniela will have printed on the jacket cover. Brett emails me with updates on foreign rights sales. We've sold rights in Germany, Spain, Poland, and Russia. Early reviews start pouring in 2 months before the release date. I make it a nightly habit to scroll through new Goodreads reviews just for that little boost of serotonin. The Last Front is killing it. Its review average is a healthy 4.89. And most of the top reviews are so gushingly positive that the occasional ambivalent 3-star review hardly phases me. One night, though, I glimpse something that makes my heart stop. 1 star. The Last Front has received its first 1-star review from a user named Candace Lee. No way. I click over to her profile, wondering if it's just a coincidence. Nope. Candace Lee, NYC, works in publishing. Fingers trembling, I screenshot the rating and send it to my editor. Hey Daniela, I know you said not to look at GR, but a friend sent me this, and I'm a bit concerned. It seems like a pretty large lapse in professionalism. I guess technically Candace has the right to review my work however she likes in her off time, but after what happened with the SR, this feels intentional. Best, June. Daniela gets back to me first thing in the morning. Thank you for letting me know. That is quite unprofessional. We will handle this internally. I bask for a moment, imagining what kind of chaos I've sown over at Eden's office this morning. And though I would never say this out loud about a fellow woman, the industry is tough enough as it is. I hope I got that bitch fired.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 4. Now calling herself Juniper Song, June Hayward is finally a literary success, but it's all based on Athena Liu's stolen work. The book is out. I have a launch event scheduled at Politics and Prose near the waterfront. It's the kind of bookstore that ex-presidents and celebrities speak at. The store is packed. People are sitting cross-legged in the aisle. Applause echoes around me as I walk out to the front. I've never spoken to this many people in my life. Thankfully, I'm set to do a reading before the Q&A, so I have a moment to get my bearings. I finish reading to enthusiastic applause. The Q&A goes equally well. They love me. And for the first time, it really sinks in that I did it. I have become one of the chosen ones, one deemed by the powers that be to matter. And then I see her, right there, in the front row, so solid and present that I can't be hallucinating. She slouched gracefully against her plastic pull-out chair, pushing her shiny black locks over her shoulder. Athena. Blood thunders in my ears. I blink several times, hoping desperately she's an apparition, but every time I open my eyes, she's still there, smiling expectantly at me. Calm down. Perhaps it's her sister? A twin? But Athena doesn't have a sister. Dizzy, dry-mouthed, I stumble through the rest of the Q&A. I keep glancing down at Athena, hoping she'll have disappeared and that she was a trick of my imagination, but every time I do, she is still right there. Then the hour's up. Am I the only one who's seen her? The store manager offers to call me an Uber back to my apartment, and I gratefully accept. At home, I kick off my shoes and curl into bed. My heart races. My breaths are shallow. I try going through the checklist Dr. Gailey taught me. What do I see? This beige comforter, stained on one side with my foundation and streaks of my mascara. What do I hear? Traffic outside? My own heartbeat in my eardrums. It all brings me back down a bit, but my mind is still racing. I reach for my phone. I search Twitter for Athena's name. I search for mentions of politics in prose. But there's nothing. I'm the only one who saw Athena. All everyone's talking about on Twitter is how brilliant the event was. My search for June plus Athena yields only one new tweet in the past hour, written by someone I assume is a random audience member. Juniper Song's reading from The Last Front Tonight was absolutely gorgeous, and it's clear why she feels this book is an homage to her friend. Indeed, as she spoke about her creative process, it felt as if Athena Lou's ghost was right there in the room with us. I hit number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list the following Wednesday. Daniela emails me with the good news. "Congratulations, June. You did it. Smiley face." Brett follows up a few minutes after that. "Woohoo! Juniper Song, New York Times best-selling author." I am, by every possible metric, a major success. Everything changes. I receive half a dozen invitations to speak at various literary events in the next month alone. At this summer's book con, I receive invitations to multiple after-parties. I find myself in a charmed circle with Daniela and 3 of her best-selling authors, Marnie Kimball, Jen Walker, and Heidi Steele, a severe and handsome romance novelist whose titles I've seen on racks since I was a child. I get my first royalties statement. And sales, if this statement is anything to go by, are astounding. I buy a new laptop. I move to a nicer apartment. I get a liquor cabinet. I am now the sort of person who has a liquor cabinet. I write a check for the entirety of my remaining student debt, lick the envelope, and send it off to the Department of Education. I do pay things forward. I make a check out to the Asian American Writers Collective for $2,000, just as I'd promised, and I'll keep making those yearly contributions so long as my royalties are this good. I graciously accept a request to serve as a mentor for Scribbler's Fairy Godmothers, a program that pairs an underrepresented writer with a published writer who can coach them through the vicissitudes of the industry. I'm matched with a girl named Emmy Cho. Emmy is based out in San Francisco, so we do our first mentoring session over Zoom. She's pretty, in a fresh-faced, innocent way. Like a cute bunny rabbit. Like a defanged Athena. But as the hour draws to a close, Emmy clears her throat and says, if you don't mind me asking, are you white?" My surprise must show on my face because she immediately apologizes. "Sorry, I don't know if that's cool to say. I just, song, that's kind of ambiguous, so I just wanted to know." "I am white," I say, more frostily than I'd intended. Song is my middle name. My mother gave it to me. "Okay," Emmy says. Cool, I was just asking." Of course, I have my detractors. The first time I get tagged in a bad review on Twitter, I text Marnie Kimball and Jen Walker, my new friends from the BookCon after-party. They'd given me their numbers and insisted that I reach out if I was ever having a hard time navigating the industry. Since then, our group chat, cheekily named Eden's Angels, has been my go-to source of support and industry gossip. "How do you get over rude shit people say about you online?" I ask. "This is so demoralizing." Marnie. "Rule 1, do not read reviews. If they had anything good to say, they would have written their own books. They are petty little people." "Let them scream in their own echo chambers," writes Jen. "Performing outrage is a bonding activity for them. Don't let it get to you. They're sheep." That's good advice. If only I had the mental fortitude to not care so much about what people think of me. The most widely circulated hate piece is an essay review in the Los Angeles Review of Books by a critic named Adele Sparks Sato, whose work I actually enjoy, because she's good at pointing out that the novels everyone else touts as the voice of a generation are actually self-indulgent, narcissistic nonsense. She's published some of the harshest criticisms of Athena's work in the past. This time, she's come after me. In The Last Front, Juniper's song misses an excellent opportunity to excavate a forgotten history and instead uses the suffering of thousands of Chinese laborers as a site for melodrama and white redemption. The Last Front hardly breaks new ground. Instead, it joins novels like The Help and The Good Earth in a long line of what I dub historical exploitation novels, inauthentic stories that use troubled pasts as an entertaining set piece for white entertainment. Whatever. Who is Adele to tell me off about authenticity? Isn't the name Sato Japanese? I text Eden's Angels. Marnie. With initials like ass. No? Jen. Critics build an audience by dragging others down. It's the only way they can legitimize themselves. It's a toxic culture. Don't get pulled in. We're better than that. Another online firebrand, a guy named Xiao Chen, puts out a Substack essay arguing that The Last Front should never have been published. I'm actually quite familiar with Xiao Chen's brand. Xiao Chen had gone viral the previous year for a piece in Vox titled Enough with Diaspora Fiction, which argued essentially that no one in the current wave of Chinese-American novelists was producing anything of value, because none of them had lived through things like the Tiananmen Square Massacre or the Cultural Revolution, and that spoiled Bay Area kids who couldn't even speak Mandarin were diluting the radical force of the diaspora canon. I've seen him getting in vicious spats with other writers on Twitter. "Learn Chinese," he would snap. Or, "Shut up, brainwashed Western puppets." Honestly, his vitriol makes me laugh. Jen. People like that just can't stand to see women succeed. Marnie. Misogynism at its worst. I am, in fact, extremely well prepared when one of my detractors confronts me in person. I'm at a historical fiction speaker series hosted by an indie bookstore in Cambridge. A girl in the front row takes the mic. She's got this breathless, wild-eyed look on her face, like she's been waiting her entire life for this chance to take me down. "Hi," she says, and her voice wavers for a moment. She's not used to picking fights in front of a live audience. "I'm Chinese American, and when I read The Last Front, I found a lot of deeply painful histories, and I wanted to ask you, why do you think it's okay for a white author, an author who isn't Chinese, to write and profit from this kind of story? Why do you think you're the right person to tell it?" She lowers the mic. Her cheeks are flushed. But I've prepared this answer. I've been preparing this answer ever since I started writing the book. I think it's very dangerous to start censoring what authors should and shouldn't write. I still see some skeptical faces, especially from the other Asians present, so I continue. I'd hate to live in a world where we tell people what they should and shouldn't write based on the color of their skin. Turn what you're saying around and see how it sounds. Can a black writer not write a novel with a white protagonist? What about everyone who has written about World War II and never lived through it? I think writing is fundamentally an exercise in empathy. Reading lets us live in someone else's shoes. Literature builds bridges. It makes our world larger, not smaller. Smattered applause. At least I haven't gotten any boos. I smile, touch my fist to my chin, and launch into another perfectly rehearsed answer. Who has the right to write about suffering? I once went to a Korean War exhibit with Athena, back when I was still fooling myself that we could be good friends. Athena examined every placard and cutout, announcing every so often what it was that made this particular story so very tragic. I couldn't find Athena when I exited, and for a moment I thought she ditched me before I saw her sitting on a bench next to an old man in a wheelchair, jotting things into her notebook.
And do you remember how that felt? She asked him. Can you describe it for me? Everything you can remember.
Jesus Christ, I thought. She's a vampire. Athena had a magpie's eye for suffering. This skill united all her best-received works. She could see through the grime and sludge of facts and details to the part of the story that bled. She collected true narratives like seashells, polished them off, and presented them, sharp and gleaming, to horrified and entranced readers. That museum visit was disturbing, but it didn't surprise me. She probably didn't even think of it as theft. The way she described it, this process wasn't exploitative, but something mythical and profound. Athena would go on Twitter and talk about the importance of Asian American representation, about how the model minority myth was false because Asians were overrepresented at both the low and high ends of the income spectrum, how Asian women continued to be fetishized and made victims of hate crimes. And then she'd go home and settle down to write on a $1,000 antique typewriter, while sipping a bottle of expensive Riesling her publisher had sent her. Athena never personally experienced suffering. She just got rich from it. She wrote an award-winning short story based on what she saw at that exhibit, titled Whispers Along the Yalu. And she wasn't even Korean.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 5. For June Hayward, or Juniper Song, the threads are beginning to unravel. The attacks start on Twitter. The first tweet comes from an account named @AthenaLou's_Ghost, created earlier this week. No profile picture, no words in the bio. Juniper Song, aka June Hayward, did not write the last front. I did. She stole my book, stole my voice, and stole my words. #SaveAthena. Then, dated a few hours later, several sickening follow-ups in the thread. June Hayward befriended me a few years ago to get closer to my process and my work. She came over often to my apartment, and I would catch her rooting through my notebooks when she thought I wasn't looking. The proof is in black and white. Read my previous novels. Compare them to the prose in the last front. Read June's debut novel and ask yourself, is the last front a novel a white woman could have written? For let's be clear, Juniper Song Hayward is a white woman. She's using the pen name Juniper Song to pretend to be Chinese American. She's taken new author photos to look more tan and ethnic, but she's as white as they come. June Hayward, you are a thief and a liar. You've stolen my legacy, and now you spit on my grave. Shame on June. Shame on Eden Press. Daniela Woodhouse must withdraw the current edition from bookstores and return the rights to Athena's mother, Patricia Liu. All future editions should be published under Athena's name alone. Do not let injustice stand. #SaveAthena. There's a penultimate tweet tagging over a dozen prominent Twitter accounts, begging them to retweet for visibility. Then a final tweet tagging me. My mind's fizzled out. I can't form coherent thoughts anymore. I can only click refresh on @AthenaLou's_Ghost's page, reading the tweets over and over again, watching as the thread slowly gains traction. And then the floodgates are open. People start replying. Are you fucking serious? Where's the proof? Always thought there was something off about Song. Sounds like another Yaley prodigy is just a big lying fraud. WTF, send her ass to jail. I can't move away from my laptop. Even when I finally get up to pee, my eyes remained glued to my phone. Then the DMs start coming. They're all from total strangers. Die, bitch. June, have you seen these tweets? Are they true? You need to defend yourself if not. You should burn in hell for what you did, racist, thieving whore. You owe Mrs. Liu every cent in your bank account. I was a fan of The Last Front. This is incredibly disappointing. You owe the entire book community a public apology immediately. I'm gonna come to DC and beat the living shit out of you, racist bitch. It's after that last one that I finally hurl my phone across my bed. Holy shit. My heartbeat is so loud in my eardrums that I stand up, pace around my apartment, wedge a chair under my front door. No, I don't think someone's about to barge in and murder me, it just feels that way. And then curl up on my bed, where I pull my knees up to my chest and rock back and forth. Oh my God. It's all over. People know. The whole world is about to know. Daniela will find out. Eden will fire me. I'll lose all my money. Mrs. Liu will sue me. She'll decimate me in court. Brett will drop me as a client. My career will be over, and I'll go down in literary history as the bitch who stole Athena Liu's work. They'll make a Wikipedia page about me. They'll write endless think pieces about me. I'll be a meme, and not a single word I write will ever be published again. I've been so stable up until now. I've done such a good job of managing my anxiety, of focusing on the present instead of all my terrors and insecurities, of compartmentalizing the horror of where and how I got my hands on that original manuscript, of moving on. And it all comes flooding back now. Athena's hands flying to her throat, her bluing face, her feet drumming against the ground. Oh, God. What have I done? I don't want Brett to hear about this from Twitter, so I send him a quick email. There's something weird going on. Do you have a moment to get on the phone? He must have seen the tweets already, because he calls me not even 5 minutes later, though it's nearly 9 in the evening. I pick up, trembling. Hey, Brett. Hi, June. His voice sounds flat, though I can't tell if I'm projecting. So, what's going on? I clear my throat. I'm guessing you've seen the tweets? If you could clarify. The ones that say I stole The Last Front from Athena Liu. Well, a long pause. So, yeah. It's not true, is it? No! My voice flies up in pitch. No, of course not! I don't know who's behind it. I don't know how this started. Well, if it's not true, then don't make such a big deal of it. Brett doesn't sound nearly as upset as he should be. I thought he'd be angry, but he just seems mildly irritated. It's just some troll. It'll blow over. It's all allegations, isn't it? Totally groundless, right? Don't issue a response. Don't get entangled. If they've got nothing, they've got nothing. And soon enough, people will see it for the nasty character assassination that it is. Brett yammers on for a bit longer, citing examples of other famous authors who have been targets of online hate campaigns. It never hurts sales, Junie. It never does. Just let the trolls say what they want. You're gonna be fine. I nod and bite back what I want to say. Brett's right. There's no point in escalating this, since any response only gives the allegations legitimacy. Okay. Okay? Good. Brett sounds like he's ready to be done with this call. Don't worry so much, all right? Just relax, June. You're gonna get some haters. It comes with the territory. If it's not true, then you have nothing to worry about.
Brett pauses for a moment.
I mean, it's not true, is it?
No, God, of course not.
Then block and ignore them, Brett snorts. Or better yet, block Twitter altogether. You writers are too online to begin with. This'll blow over. These things always do.
Brett's wrong. This won't blow over. Twitter scandals are like snowballs. The more people that see it, the more who feel it necessary to weigh in with their own opinions and agendas, creating an explosion of discourse branching off the instigating conversation. The Athena-June scandal, as it's being now referred to, has become the discourse of the moment. She used to write as June Hayward, tweets a user named Rael089, but she published her book about China as June Song. Fucked up, right? The literal definition of Yellowface, writes one reply. I don't think they know what literal means. So pathetic, crows another. I should have stopped looking once I'd glimpsed what I thought was the bottom of the pit of internet stupidity. But reading discourse about myself is like prodding at a sore tooth. I'm compelled to keep digging just to see how far the rot goes. I stop my thoughts from spiraling out, just like Dr. Gailey taught me. It's the internet that's fucked, not me. It's this contingent of social justice warriors and Asian activists seeking attention who are acting up. I am not the bad guy. I am the victim here. At least some people speak out on my behalf. Mostly white people, to be fair, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're in the wrong. Brett, bless him, puts up the following statement. The recently made allegations against my client Juniper Song are utterly groundless and ill-intentioned. The online attacks have been nothing short of character assassination. He waxes on a bit about my unimpeachable writing talent, about how hard I've worked at my craft since he signed me 4 years ago, and finishes with, I and the Lambert Agency stand firmly behind Juniper Song. My team at Eden don't say a thing, which annoys me a bit. But given the sheer number of accounts tagging Eden, urging them to drop my contract, Eden's indifference is a vote of confidence in and of itself. Daniela sent us a concerned email when the allegations first circulated, but when Brett assured her that there was no truth to the accusations, she counseled us to keep our heads down. We don't want to legitimize the claims by responding. Our team has found that in the past, engaging with trolls only emboldens them. I'm sorry this is happening to June, but we do believe the best thing to do is to keep quiet. Eden's angels, bless them, are firmly on my side. Jen. You all right, though? Hanging in there? Marnie. This is horrendous. I am so sorry you're going through this. Let me know if there's anything we can do. You are so brave. Jen. It's tall poppy syndrome. They hate seeing young women succeed. That's all it is. I get shit like this all the time from male CEOs. They can't stand us. Marnie. They're dogpiling on you for clout and attention, and they know it. It's not about you, it's about them. Jen. Don't wrestle with pigs and all that. Block it out, Junie. Ignore the haters. Rise above. If only I could. I cannot unglue myself from my devices. Whenever I close my eyes, I still see that azure blue screen. I still imagine the likes racking up on yet another takedown thread about me. I do try a digital purge. I try taking a walk. I can't eat. I'm starving all the time, and I keep ordering huge, greasy delivery meals of pizza or pasta bowls. But the moment I start to chew, my thoughts begin to spiral again about my impending professional implosion, and then I can't take another bite without gagging. I can't sleep. I wish I had an exit strategy.
Sometimes I think ruefully to myself that maybe this is just something I have to get through. Marnie Kimball, Daniela's favorite author, has gotten in hot water at least a dozen times, always for tweeting something edgy and indefensible, like, "The classics are just better, and if you don't get them, you don't know how to read. Sorry." Her sales are doing fine. Maybe Daniela's right. Maybe silence is the best response. "You all need to get outside," a prominent writer had complained once on Twitter. "Get some fresh air. Twitter is not real life." But Twitter is real life. It's realer than real life because that is the realm that the social economy of publishing exists on, because the industry has no alternative. Offline, writers are all faceless, hypothetical creatures pounding out words in isolation from one another. You can't peek over anyone's shoulder. You can't tell if everyone else is really doing as dandy as they pretend they are. But online, you can tune in.
BBC Sounds, music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 6. June is the center of a social media storm, but she's desperate to hold on to her success. That weekend, I take the subway out to Alexandria for a backyard grill with my sister and her husband. Rory and I aren't terribly close, but we have the easy intimacy of two sisters who can't fathom what the other finds attractive about their lifestyle. Rory is married to her college sweetheart, Tom, an IT technician who has always struck me as having the appearance and personality of wet dough. They're bickering on the patio when I arrive. Rory squeezes me as I walk up. Usually I cringe from Rory's big sisterly affectations, but tonight I lean into her touch. "Have a beer. I'm gonna go check on the oven." "How's Trix?" Tom gestures to the picnic table, and I sit down across from him. He's been growing his beard out. "Just the usual," I say, accepting a Corona Light. "Could be better." "Rory told me you published another book, right? Congrats." I wince. I hope they haven't Googled me recently. "Well, thanks." Often I feel like talking to Rory and Tom is like making conversation with a pollster's hypothetical average American, or with a blank Facebook profile. What are your thoughts on movies? On music? I've tried asking Tom about work, but it seems there's nothing interesting to say about the duties of an IT technician. Or is there? A thought occurs to me. "Hey, Tom, could you trace the IP address of, any random Twitter account?" His brows furrow. "What do you need an IP address for?" There's this account that's been harassing me." I pause, wondering how much to explain, or whether I could even explain things in a way that makes sense to people not keyed deeply into publishing. Like spreading lies about me and stuff. Well, I don't think you're going to be able to find them using a Twitter handle. Don't websites store the IP addresses of visitors? Yes, but Twitter's data is protected. All major social media sites protect their data. They have to by law. You couldn't, break into it? He chuckles. A data breach like that would make headlines. That's a huge privacy violation. Not trying to go to prison here, Junie. But if I owned and ran my own website, I could see the IP addresses of anyone who visited? Tom considers this, and then shrugs. Well, I guess, yeah. But the problem is that an IP address doesn't tell you all that much. You can find out what city they live in, maybe, or even what neighborhood, but it's not like in TV shows where it magically pinpoints their exact GPS location. But you could tell me a broad geographical range, I say. That is, if I got you the address. Tom hesitates. You're not doing anything illegal, are you? Of course not. Jesus. I'm not gonna, throw a Molotov cocktail through their window. I'm trying to be funny, but the specificity of this scenario puts him off. He fiddles with the rim of his beer bottle. Then could you tell me a bit more about what you need? Because if they really are harassing you, then maybe it's not safe. I just want to know who it is, I say. Or just generally where they are. And if they're nearby, so I can make sure they're not a physical threat. Like whether I should be worried about them stalking me or... Stalking? What's going on? Rory pops up, balancing a platter of cornbread in one hand. Everything okay, Junie? No, yeah, it's just this stupid thing. Just asking for Tom's help finding this person who's been bullying me on Twitter. Rory frowns. Bullying? It's more like creepy internet people, I say. I don't think Rory will understand the concept of trolling. Rory looks to her husband. You can do that, right? This sounds serious. Tom sighs, hapless. Again, I can't get IP addresses from Twitter. I'll get you the IP address, I say. I just need you to look it up for me. Between my pleading face and Rory's expectant glare, I imagine Tom doesn't feel like he has a choice. Sure. He reaches for another beer. Happy to help out. When I get home that night, I settle down at my desk. I do know enough to throw together a half-decent website that doesn't immediately appear like a Russian hacker's trap. The design of the site isn't too important. It's supposed to look like a janky homegrown blog. I spend about 15 minutes copying, pasting, and formatting some of the more vicious proof of my alleged plagiarism onto the homepage. Finally, I make my own fake Twitter account. No profile picture, no header. Just the handle @LazarusAthena. That'll catch the eye. When that's all set up, I send a DM to the @AthenaLou's ghost account. Hey, I don't know who you are, but thank you for doing all this work to expose June Hayward. I have some additional proof documented here if you're interested. Then I paste the link to my honey trap. The @AthenaLou's ghost account doesn't respond immediately. I lie in bed for 10 minutes or so, constantly refreshing my Twitter app. But it looks like @AthenaLou's ghost isn't even online. In the meantime, on my real account, I get 3 new DMs from strangers encouraging me to kill myself, so I stop checking my messages for the time being. Still, I can't help but browse my timeline to check on the rest of the conversation. The flurry of accusations has died down, though some prominent bloggers are still calling for my head. Why hasn't @Eden Press responded to these allegations yet? Demands Adele Sparks Sato. This is a terrible look for your imprint, @Daniela Woodhouse. Says a lot about how much you care about marginalized voices. I get the DM I was waiting for that evening. Thanks. says at Athena Lou's ghost. Have linked to most of that stuff already, though. If you come up with any new proof, please let me know. Let's get justice for Athena. I dash over to my desk and open WordPress on my laptop. Just as I'd hoped, my website has received its first and only visitor. I copy the 9-digit IP address and text it to Tom. Tom texts me back a few hours later. You're in luck. Tried a couple of different IP geolocation services, and they all spit out the same city. You don't know anyone in Fairfax, do you? Sorry, I'm guessing that's a little close for comfort. Probably you should go to the police if you think they might try anything serious. Also, sorry I can't be more specific. But I know exactly who this is. There's only one person Athena and I both know who lives in Fairfax, and I wouldn't put this past him at all. Heart hammering, I pull up Twitter and search Jeffrey Carlino to see what Athena's ex-boyfriend has been up to lately. Where does one even start with Jeff? Athena and I weren't close when they started dating. I was still in NYC, struggling through my underpaid, understimulating Teach for America year, but I know as well as anyone the story of their disastrous implosion, a messy affair that played out on Twitter and Instagram for the entire world to see. From what I understand, Jeff and Athena met at a writer's residency in Oregon. Their coupling was foreordained. They were both hot and, for the most part, straight, both prodigies on the verge of taking the publishing world by storm. But Jeff... How does one put this kindly? Jeff simply isn't that talented. He started out strong with dozens of award-winning publications in prestigious short story magazines, but his first novel failed to make the expected splash. Athena broke up with him shortly after this. One should also mention that before his debut flopped, Jeff published a series of short stories about an android girl named Xiao Li, who put up with a number of abuses from lecherous human clients before self-destructing in a blast that destroys over half of New Beijing. The stories, Jeff argued, were a scorching interrogation of colonial misogyny, AI rights, and Chinese patriarchy. Someone on Twitter asked him how he had researched all the Chinese phrases. Jeff blithely responded that he was dating a long-haired dictionary. That made the Twitter rounds for days. There were also allegations of drunk groping at bars, and an account that looks suspiciously like Jeff's on a well-known porn site with "Got That Yellow Fever" in the bio. But we're all too polite to bring that up in company. So Jeff's book flopped. Athena did what everyone expected and distanced herself from that mess, and publishing's most attractive young couple was reduced to publishing's most attractive young author and a white boy whose career was over before it started. At that point, Jeff should have licked his wounds and moved on. But then his Twitter presence took a savage turn. He started positing long screeds about how he'd been unjustly made a villain, how in fact it was Athena who had encouraged him but had failed to stand up for him. I got secondhand embarrassment from watching it all go down. Depending on who you talk to, Jeff is either a manipulative, abusive, gaslighting, insecure leech, or a victim himself. Athena came out pretty clean, but mostly because no one could believe that dating the beautiful and talented Athena Lou was as awful as Jeff made it sound, and because it's always easier to make the cishet white guy the punching bag. So, what on earth is he targeting me for? After some more sleuthing, I'm certain he's the one behind all this. His account has faithfully retweeted everything that the @Athena Lou's ghost account has ever tweeted. Sometimes he adds his own quote tweets. Can't believe no one is talking about this. Eden and Juniper Song should be ashamed. Before that, the only thing he's tweeted was from over a month ago. I have to act fast. Jeff is an idiot, but he's an unstable, unpredictable idiot. Best to nip this in the bud. I think I can hold my own against him, but I'd like to know exactly what he has up his sleeve. I still have Jeff's number. I send Jeff a screenshot of @AthenaLou's ghost's first tweet, and then I add, I know. He's one of those assholes who leaves red receipts on. He sees it right away. He doesn't answer. I type, tomorrow, outside Coco's in Tyson's Corner, 3:30. Only chance. Show up or I'll tell everyone it's you. Then I turn off my phone, hurl it across my bed, and scream. I show up early to Coco's coffee. I get an iced latte. I don't know why I'm scanning for possible exits like I'm a KGB agent, but that's not a bad description of our situation. Two people who've been trading lies on the internet, trying to decide how to ruin the other's reputation. I'm shocked when Jeff shows up. I see him coming from across the square, head down like he's afraid of being recognized. He's wearing a baseball cap and a massive pair of sunglasses. He looks ridiculous. Hi, Junie. He yanks out the chair across from me, sits down and removes his sunglasses. Nice to see you again. Jeff is superficially very handsome. He looks like the love interest from some dark and steamy YA novel come to life. All mussed dark hair and rough stubble. Only I've read his tweets, so I find him too pathetic to be sexy. I don't want to let him think for a moment that he has the upper hand. I'm coming out the gate as aggressively as I can. So, what's this nonsense about stealing Athena's manuscript? He leans back and folds his arms across his barrel chest. I think we both know what I'm talking about.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 7. June has discovered who's behind the social media account attempting to blackmail her. I smack my hand against the metal table. It's dramatic, but I like that it makes Jeff flinch. I'm gonna give you one chance to explain yourself before I sue you for defamation. His confidence slips, just for a moment. Did that work? Did I scare him off? We spoke about the manuscript. Athena and I. My gut twists. She told me about it while we were dating. I saw her researching it. The migrant laborers, the forgotten voices at the front. I saw those Wikipedia pages. He leans forward and holds my gaze with narrowed eyes. And it strikes me as very convenient that shortly after her death, you come out with a book about the very same subject. More than one person can write a World War I story, I say dryly. There's no copyright on history, Jeffrey. Don't bullshit me. I suppose you're gonna whip out all of your folders of evidence now? My strategy is to make him show his cards from the start. If he does have proof, I'm finished anyways, and I'd like to at least see it coming. But if he doesn't, there's room to maneuver. His face tightens. I know what you did. We all do. You can't lie your way out of this one. Suppose... I tap my fingernails on the table and blink nervously for effect. Suppose I did take it. His eyes widen. I fucking knew it, you fucking liar. Okay, stop, please. I feign terror. I let my voice tremble. What do you want, Jeff? His face settles back into a smug grin. So you really thought you could get away with it? Can we just make this go away? Please, if you leak this, I'll lose everything. Or maybe you won't. He leans forward, palms flat against the table.
Maybe we can come to some sort of agreement. I fight to keep my face still. What do you mean? You must be making bank from that book, right? I saw that advance announcement. Mid-6 figures, wasn't it? And I know you've already earned out. You're blackmailing me? I just think it could be a profitable arrangement for the both of us, he says. You keep selling your books, I keep your secret. Win-win, no? Shall we discuss my rates? No. I make a big show of tapping my lip and then pouting. No, I don't think I'll do that. Jeff's eyes narrow. You don't really get a choice here. Don't I? What do you think will happen when everyone finds out? They're not going to find out, I shrug, because it's not true. You're full of shit, Jeffrey, and we both know it. I know you stole the book. But you don't know. You don't have a shred of proof. You're just making things up to get a reaction. I tap my side pocket where my iPhone sits, secure behind a zipper, recording this whole conversation. What I do have, though, is a record of you trying to blackmail me for a cut of the royalties on a book you claim was stolen. You're not doing this for Athena. You're trying to leech off of her legacy. And when this leaks, Jeff, do you think you're ever gonna get another publishing deal in your life? Jeff looks like he wants to strangle me, but he doesn't have the drive to take this any further. Rage shrinks to defeat. I watch his shoulders deflate. You're a horrible person, he spits. I am a brilliant writer and a good friend, I say. You, on the other hand, are on record trying to mooch off the supposedly stolen words of your ex. Go to hell, bitch. I stand up. I once saw a video of a hunter who shot a lion between the eyes right as it sprang. I wonder if the hunter felt like I do now. Breathless, victorious, just this side of safe. I wonder if he too looked at his victim and marveled at all that power, that potential, wasted. Don't contact me again. Once I know Jeff has nothing up his sleeve, I have no trouble crafting my response narrative. After running some drafts by Jen and Marnie, I post my official statement about the whole fiasco on my author website, which I link to on Twitter. Hi, everyone. I've of course been aware of the recent allegations circulating about the authorship of The Last Front. I apologize for not speaking up sooner. Please understand that this has been a difficult time for me, and that I am still struggling to cope with my best friend's tragic death. In short, the allegations are completely false. The Last Front is my original creation. I was inspired by Athena to look into this forgotten chapter of global history, and it's no surprise that her voice shines through in my work. I don't know the motives of the people behind this rumor, but I can only take it as a hurtful, malicious attack on my relationship with someone I miss very much, and whose death was one of the most traumatic experiences of my life. My agent and editor have conducted their own independent investigations and have found no wrongdoing. I won't be speaking on this again. Thank you, Juniper. By the next morning, the @AthenaLou's ghost account has disappeared. There's nothing to point back to now, no original claim to bolster. The citation links are broken. The quote tweets lead to nothing. Some people are still making a stink, lambasting the publishing house, but elsewhere it seems like people would like to pretend this all never happened. I'm sure there are still angry detractors out there who believe I did it. There's not a shred of concrete proof. They don't have enough to escalate this to legal action. Besides, the only one who could act on behalf of Athena's literary estate is Mrs. Liu, and she hasn't made a statement or reached out to me. Everything goes back to normal, The death threats dwindle to only 1 or 2 a day, and then none at all. I feel safe opening my DMs again. Within a week, all I get in my notifications are the normal slew of congratulations posts, tags in book stacks and reviews, and the occasional creep asking if I'll personally review their 500-page manuscript. All the mean tweets about me are lost to the black hole of Twitter's memory. I start sleeping through the night again. I am innocent in the court of public opinion. And at least for now, Athena's ghost has been banished. I should have left things there. The discourse is finally blown over, just as Brett had promised. I no longer need to mute my notifications for fear they'll crash my phone. I'm no longer Twitter's main character. But that's precisely the problem. I'm now trending towards irrelevance. The fan mail, good and bad, is all starting to dry up. The school and library invitations have ground to a halt. I'm not starving. I've done the math. I could walk away from all of this and be perfectly fine. But my God, I want to be back in the spotlight. The only way to get ahead, of course, is to dazzle the world with my next project. But I have no clue what that might be. Brett calls one morning, ostensibly to catch up. We trade pleasantries for a while, and then he asks, "So, how are things going in writing land?" I know what he's really asking. Everyone's clamoring for my next pitch. I sigh. I've got to be honest, I have nothing. I'm out of ideas. I've been toying with a few concepts, but nothing really sticks. Well, that's all right. I can't tell if he's irritated or not. This is the 3rd time we've had this conversation, and I know that time is running out. It doesn't have to be great, Junie. We're not trying to win the Pulitzer. We don't even need something like The Last Front. Brett pauses. You just have to publish, something. Anything. Okay, Brett. You get what I'm saying, though. I roll my eyes. Loud and clear. We say our goodbyes. Brett hangs up. I groan and turn back to my laptop, where I've been staring at the same blank, accusing Word document for weeks. The problem is that every time I sit down to write, all I hear is Athena's voice. Athena's ghost has anchored itself to me. It hovers over my shoulder, whispering in my ear every waking moment of my day. I must confess, I double-dipped. That night in Athena's apartment, I didn't only take The Last Front. I also took a smattering of papers lying across her desk, some typewritten, some covered in Athena's looping, nearly illegible scrawl, accompanied by abstract line doodles whose significance I still haven't figured out. I swear it was only out of curiosity. Athena was always so cagey about her creative process. The way she described it, it was like the gods dropped award-winning stories into her mind fully formed. I just wanted to get a look inside her head, to see if her early-stage brainstorming was anything like mine. I place them out on my desk now. There are only a few completed sentences, and only one completed paragraph, written out by hand, which begins like this. In my nightmares, she walks into a dark and never-ending hallway, and as many times as I call her name, she never turns around. Her dress leaves wet streaks on the carpet. Her pale arms are bloody and scratched. I know she has slain the bear. I know she has escaped the forest. She moves now with that same urgency, abandoning the past like Orpheus, inverted. Like if she never glances back over her shoulder, it'll cease to exist. She forgets I am trapped here, unable to move, unable to make her see me. She forgets me entirely. I don't know how to explain what happens next. It's like the story was already in my heart, waiting to be told, and Athena's voice is the spell to draw it out. Suddenly, my writer's block dissipates, and the unlocked gates to my imagination swing wide open. I can see the shape of the story in full, its opening hook, its underlying themes, its shocking yet inevitable ending. Our protagonist is a barefoot girl, a young witch chasing her immortal mother through eternity, uncovering her secrets only to form more questions about herself and where she's come from. It's a not-so-subtle exploration of my feelings towards my own mother, how she transformed so abruptly after my father's death, how the adventurous young girl she once was, who was perhaps not so different from me, has been locked entirely away. It's about wishing you knew who your parents were. It's about needing things from your parents you'll never get. When you're in the zone, drafting doesn't feel like an effortful artifice. The story pours out of me, paragraph by paragraph, until I look up and realize that it's nearly dawn, and that I've written almost 10,000 words in a manic sprint. Athena's ghost has not bothered me once. At last, I've arrived at a project even she can't find fault with. I can have this finished in less than a month. Then, before I crash into sleep, I type out a title at the top of the document: Mother Witch. No one in their right mind could call this stealing. That's what's most fucked up about this whole debacle. Mother Witch is my original creation. All Athena contributed was a couple of sentences, maybe some underlying imagery. She was the catalyst, nothing more. Who knows where she would have taken the rest of the story? I certainly don't. And I bet that whatever it was, it's nothing like what I ultimately publish. And yet, it's this story that brings me down.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 8. June couldn't resist turning to Athena Liu's notes again for inspiration, with major consequences. 2 weeks after Mother Witch comes out, Adele Sparks Sato puts out a blog post titled, Mother Witch is also plagiarized and I've had it with June Hayward. I click the link. Mother Witch opens with identical lines from a story that Athena Liu workshopped at the Asian American Writers Collective Summer Workshop in 2018. Such overlap is not coincidental. Here's the proof. Below, Adele has included screenshots of Google Docs and photographs of printed story outlines with handwritten notes in the comments, along with so many corroborating dates and accounts that such an accusation would be impossible to fake. I lower my phone. All I can do is sit at the edge of my bed, breathing in and out as the world narrows to a pinprick around me. I wake up the next morning to see I've lost 1,000 followers. I set my Instagram to private. I turn off notifications from my publicly available email address. Certainly I'm getting death threats, but at least this way I won't know about them the second they arrive. I take a kind of perverse pleasure in watching everything fall apart. Over the next week, all of my publishing relationships disintegrate. On Friday, I drag myself out of bed and make myself presentable for a video conference with my team at Eden. All the Eden people are on the same screen, sitting together around a conference table. Daniela, Jessica, and Emily, and a red-haired man I don't recognize. No one is smiling. No one waves hello when I join the call. Hello, June. Daniela's voice is cool and low, which is how I know she's pissed. I'm here with Jessica and Emily and Todd Byrne from Legal. Where's Candace? I ask, trying to get my bearings through small talk. Oh, Candace isn't here anymore, says Daniela. She left a while ago. Oh. It takes inhuman drive to hack it in publishing. Probably Candace just couldn't take it. That's too bad. Let's cut to the chase, shall we? Daniela clears her throat. June, if there's anything we need to know, you need to tell us right now. I didn't do it, I say. I swear to God, it's not plagiarized. It's all my own work, especially Mother Witch. Especially? Todd cuts in. What does that mean? I mean, The Last Front was inspired by conversations with Athena, I say quickly, but she's dead now, obviously, and I didn't have her to talk to while I was drafting Mother Witch, so the writing style doesn't resemble hers as much. That's not what Adele Sparks Sato is claiming, says Jessica. Adele's full of shit, I burst out. Guys! My voice hitches. Come on! You know me. You can tell us, says Daniela, if there was any sort of collaboration or anything that means you are not the sole author. We need to know. She's talking like she's certain I'm guilty. Hold on, I cut in. No, look, I swear to God, it's mine. The project is mine. I wrote out every single word myself. And that's true. Completely true. I made The Last Front. Athena's version was utterly unpublishable. That book exists because of me. Do you possibly have proof of that? Todd asks. Early drafts, perhaps? Emails with timestamps that we could verify? Well, no, because I'm not in the habit of emailing things to myself. So, are we being sued? Brett presses. Has Athena's estate issued a cease and desist, or is all this precautionary? It's precautionary, Todd admits. Well, Daniela clears her throat. There remains a problem of perception. We need to be clear on what our story is. That's what we're trying to do here. To get all the facts straight so we're all on the same page. So if June could repeat, for clarity, precisely her account of how she wrote The Last Front and Mother Witch. The Last Front is entirely my original work, inspired by my conversations with Athena. My voice keeps steady. I feel like I'm on more solid footing now that I know I'm not getting dropped by my publisher. And Mother Witch takes the first paragraph from one of Athena's unpublished drafts, but otherwise it is entirely original to me as well. I write my own stuff, you guys, I promise. I think what's best for you right now is to focus on your next work, Daniela says crisply. Aiden will put out a statement on your behalf. We'll send it over for your approval this afternoon. Emily chips in. We all feel that in the meantime, it's best that you personally stay off social media. But if you wanted to announce a new project, something you're currently working on? I get the idea. Shut up, stay out of the spotlight, and prove you're capable of writing your own books. Brett rings me right after for a follow-up. Do they hate me? I ask miserably. Is Daniela done with me? No. Actually, it's not as bad as it seems. Controversy of any sort is pretty good for free marketing. We're expecting your royalties to go up in the next payment period. What, seriously? It seems like this whole fiasco got picked up by a lot of, well, right-wing commentators. They're turning this into a culture war issue, and that always drives attention, so sales are up. This is the first piece of good news I've gotten all week. By how much? Enough that you're going to get a bonus. Feel better? Wow. All right. My phone rings once more that night. June? A pause. It's Patricia Liu, Athena's mom. Oh, Jesus Christ. Hi, Mrs. Liu. I'm calling because, well, there's no easy way to say this. Mrs. Liu, I think I know. A woman named Adele Sparks Sato reached out to me this morning. She wanted to know if I still had Athena's drafting notebooks and if she could have a look. She insinuated that you had stolen the last front from Athena, and she wanted to look through Athena's notebooks to see if there was any evidence that Athena had been working on that project. I press my hand against my forehead. This is it. It's all over. I thought she was calling about Mother Witch, but this is so much worse. Mrs. Liu, I don't know what to say. Well, I told her no, of course. My heart skips a beat. Mrs. Liu continues. I don't like when strangers... Anyhow, I told her to give me some time to think about it, and I thought I would talk to you first. As you know, June, I very much do not want to open those notebooks. And the follow-up question, unspoken, do I have reason to? Mrs. Liu, I take a deep breath. I worked very, very hard on the last front. My blood and sweat are in that book. I see. Your daughter was an exceptional writer, and so am I. And I think it hurts both her legacy and my future to overlook either truth. I'm skilled with words. I know how to lie without lying. And I know, on some level, that Mrs. Liu is terrified of what lies inside those moleskins. I'm speaking to a mother who, when it comes down to it, would really rather not confront what dark things lay buried in her daughter's soul. No mother wants to know her child that well. Here, then, are the terms of our bargain. She'll keep my secrets, as long as she never has to confront Athena's. Very well, says Mrs. Liu. Thank you, June. Before she hangs up, I blurt, and, Mrs. Liu, about Mother Witch, so I don't know if you've heard, but I'm going to rewrite the opening. Oh, June, she sighs, I don't care about that. It really is original work, I say. I know, says Mrs. Liu, and now there's a hard edge in her voice. I know, June. Athena never would have written something like that. Before I can ask her what she means, she hangs up. By the end of the month, the dust has settled and all relevant parties have made up their minds. I am hated by the internet, an embarrassment to the industry, and hanging on to my relationship with my publisher by a thread. In the following weeks, I do think often about quitting writing altogether. But I can't quit the one thing that gives meaning to my life. Brett starts bugging me about a month into my creative desert. I can tell he's been trying to give me space. All his emails so far have been gentle, tactfully worded nudges, but clearly he's running out of patience. Want to run a new opportunity by you, reads his latest missive. Call when convenient. He picks up on the first ring. June, good to hear from you. How have you been? All right, The hate mail has stopped, mostly. Not getting death threats anymore. Well, that's good. I told you it would blow over. He pauses. And, regarding what we last discussed? There's nothing. I figure it's best to just spit it out. I've got nothing. Not a single idea. I don't even know where to start. Sorry, I know that's not what you want to hear. I brace myself for Brett's disappointment. Instead, he asks promptly, Then what about IP work? I suppress a scoff. IP, intellectual property, work is for mediocre writers. Or so I've always been told. It's cheap work-for-hire labor for people who couldn't manage to sell their original projects. What about it? All I mean is, if you're having trouble coming up with your own concept, what about writing to an outline? What, like a superhero novel? No thanks, Brett. I still have standards. What's the point? Well, you'd have a new book out. So you'd have something new to talk about. Something to move the conversation along. Well played, Brett. Fair point. Just think about it, Junie. This could rescue your career. No, Brett, I'm pretty sure this is the sort of thing that ends careers. We might not get an opportunity like this again. Call me if, Lucasfilm gets on the line, I say, but I'm sorry, Brett. Even I'm not stooping that low. I have nothing to do. Nothing to write. Nothing with which to distract myself. Most nights I end up curled up in bed, phone clutched inches away from my face, browsing the web for mentions of myself and my books just to feel an echo of that thrill from the time I was a literary darling. Whenever that starts to feel stale, usually when the clock creeps toward midnight, I venture into reading the negative shit. Diana Chu has an article up on Medium titled June Hayward Must Make Amends and Here's How. One night, I see a surprisingly thoughtful take amidst the kiddie pool of filth. It's a review of The Last Front published 2 months ago. I sit up, suddenly curious. Who is this person?
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang, Episode 9. After a fierce social media backlash, June is determined to use the controversy to reclaim her success. I've come up with my next project. I won't dodge the controversy anymore. I'll write about us. I'll describe every step along my way to literary stardom and then my horrifying fall. And once this scandal has been transformed and preserved in novel form, once all the ugly, unconfirmed rumors about me have been relegated safely to the realm of fiction, I'll be free. I begin drafting in earnest. This feels like redemption. This story will become eternal. Athena will be a part of that.
What more can we want as writers than such immortality? Don't ghosts just want to be remembered? I fall in love with writing again. Ever since the @AthenaLou's ghost tweets broke, I've been operating from fear, defensiveness, and insecurity. But now I'm able to dwell once again on all of publishing's promises, the things this world could give me. Brett will sell this to Daniela for a much lower advance than the last front got, given the circumstances. But it'll be a surprise hit. I'm feeling so good that I even log on to Instagram for the first time in weeks. Falling right into this manuscript, I write in the caption, blocking out the negativity, because when you're a writer, all that matters is the story within. We're overdue for the next chapter. I can't wait to share this one with you all. Athena's old Instagram account goes active that night. I wouldn't have even seen the post if I hadn't been scrolling through my notifications. There's a tag that simply reads, "Thought you could get rid of me?" I imagine it's just some shit post, but the thumbnail image looks familiar. And the account has a blue verification check, so I click to view the post. I almost drop my phone. It's Athena's account, posting for the first time since the morning before her death. In the photo, she's sitting at her writing desk, smiling sweetly, but everything is off. Her eyes are a bit too wide. Her toothy smile so stretched it looks painful, and her skin is ghost pale despite the sunlight streaming through her window. Lying open by her right hand is the last front in paperback. By her left, a slim hardcover of Mother Witch. I click to expand the caption. "Thought you could get rid of me? Sorry, Junie. I'm still kicking. Glad you had a good writing day. I had a good writing day, too. Here's me, flipping through some old works for inspiration. Heard you're a fan." My dinner crawls up my throat. I run some searches on Twitter. Athena Lou Instagram, Athena Instagram, Athena Insta, Ghost Athena, and all the other possible queries I can think of. No one's talking about this yet. The post didn't have any hashtags or tag any other accounts. What's more, the account, which once had nearly 1 million followers, now has 0. The person behind this has either blocked or soft-blocked all of Athena's followers. The only person seeing this post is me. Whoever this is, they're not trying to go viral. They just want to get my attention. I ought to block the account and forget about this. It's likely just some troll posting grotesque things to fuck with me. Don't give it power, I urge myself. Just let it alone. But I can't. At last, because I have to do something, I reach for my phone. I text Jeffrey Carlino. "This isn't funny." He doesn't respond. After 5 minutes, I follow up. "Seriously, stop." Finally, ellipses pop up at the bottom of my screen. He's typing. "I don't know what you're talking about." I send him a screenshot of Athena's Instagram. Look familiar? He types, stops typing, and then finally sends the message. "That isn't me." "Bullshit," I type furiously. "Hey, June." Jeff slides into the seat across from me, and I'm so startled I nearly knock over my tea. I didn't think he'd show. I straighten up. Hi. "I don't suppose you still think I did it?" "No," I sigh. Part of me was hoping that he'd come off as somewhat guilty, but it's clear from glancing at him that he has nothing to do with this. I unlock my phone, navigate to Athena's Instagram, and pass it over. Jeff scrolls up and down for a while, lingering on each photo. eyes scanning back and forth over the captions. I can't imagine what's going through his mind. This is his ex-girlfriend. This is someone he loved. He lowers the phone. No, this isn't her. What do you mean? It's photoshopped from an old picture. He returns the phone. Can't you see it? The lighting and shadows are all off. Which old picture? I ask. I've been over all the photos I can find online. There's nothing in that exact pose. I don't know. I just know I've seen her looking like that before. Then who's behind it? I press. Who would know her password? Who cares? Jeff shrugs. You've got plenty of haters, right? It could be anyone. You don't think... I trail off. What? That it's her? Didn't I see her die? Yes, I did. I saw the panic in her eyes. Saw her thrashing and convulsing, trying to free her throat. Saw her at last go still and blue in front of me. Then who's doing this to me? I demand. What do they want? Does it matter? Jeff shrugs. Why start getting bothered now? Because, I swallow, it hurts. It hurts. Ah, he leans forward. So are you going to tell me the truth now? I open my mouth, but nothing comes out. I can't do it. I've held the line for this long. I can't break it, even if, in some wretched way, it might set me free. I get it, says Jeff. You say it once, you can never take it back. He knows. I can tell from his face that he knows. I've seen her writing process, I blurt out. She was a thief. She took people's pain and made it her own. She stole from me, Jeff says, constantly. I'm stunned. You're saying that your stories? No, I mean, sometimes she would say things that made me upset, or ask about things I'd been through. And as time went on, all I could think was that she was mining me, using me as fodder. Suddenly my eyes flash up to the window. My breath halts. Athena. Dark curls loose over her shoulders, draped in that same emerald green shawl she'd worn to my book launch. Her eyes glimmer with amusement. Her berry-red mouth forms a jagged hole in her face. She's laughing, jeering at the sight of me with Jeff. She lifts a hand to wave. I blink, and then she's gone. You all right? Jeff half turns toward what he thinks I'm looking at. I take a deep breath. The window's empty. There's nothing I can point to. Nothing that proves I'm not going mad. I have the fleeting urge to get up and sprint to the door, to chase this apparition around the block, but what if no one's there? What if I'm simply losing my mind? Jeff gives me a sympathetic look. Look, June, go work on something else. Just get out of her shadow. Leave this all behind. But Athena is the reason for any modicum of success I've ever had. My career as an author does not exist without her. Without Athena, who am I? I'm trying, I say in a very small voice. I don't think she'll let me go. Or these trolls, whoever they are. Ignore them, June. Just block them out. Athena's Instagram starts posting at least once a day. They're always impossible photos of Athena, alive and well, positioned near objects that are deliberately dated. Newspapers, recent New Yorker issues, books released after her death. Sometimes she's winking or waving, taunting me with her insouciance. Sometimes her face is contorted in grotesque expressions, eyes wide, tongue wagging. Sometimes she's clutching her throat, eyes crossed in mockery of her death. She always tags me at the end of her captions.
How you doing, at Juniper Song? Miss me, at Juniper Song?
I try to take Jeff's advice. I mute the account. I dream of Athena every night. I see her in her last moments, her wide, panicked eyes. Those are the tame dreams. Worse are the dreams where she's reanimated. She comes magically to life, but this time she's not the same. There's a scarlet, glinting energy in her eyes. All the fury of the underworld and vengeful delight twists her lovely face as she leaps up, arms out, reaching for my neck to return the favor. I find myself typing Chinese ghosts into Google Scholar. The Chinese have so many different words for ghost. Gui, Ling, Yao, Hunpo. They are obsessed with death without peace. I learned that the most common word for ghost, gui, is a homophone for a different gui, which means to return. I start devouring Chinese ghost stories. The cultural constructions are clear. So many Chinese ghosts are hungry, angry, voiceless women. In taking Athena's legacy, I've added one to their ranks. The wildest thing about all this is that even now, I cannot stop composing. I'm trying to funnel this awfulness into something lovely. My salacious roman à clef will become a horror novel. Perhaps, if I can capture all my fears, this will rob them of their power. But I've written myself into a corner. The first 2/3 of the book were a breeze, but what do I do with the ending? Where do I leave my protagonist now that there's a hungry ghost in the mix? I stare at my screen for hours, trying out various endings, hoping to find one that will please Athena. The ghost devours me whole. The ghost rips me apart limb from limb and bathes in my blood. The ghost sinks into my body and takes over my life for my remaining years as reparations. Frustrated, I flop onto my bed and reach, as ever, for my phone. Athena's account has updated again. She's standing in front of a mirror. There's a long white paper taped to her forehead. The Last Front, it reads, by Juniper Hayward. It's a multi-photo post. I swipe right. Athena, lying prone on the floor, hands at her neck. Swipe. Athena, my book on her chest, eyes open. Swipe. Athena, reanimated, standing up. Swipe. Athena, veins protruding in her neck and forearms, mascara leaking from her eyes, howling at the camera, grinning, claws out like she wants to rip me apart head to toe. Swipe. Athena, a vicious blur leaping toward the camera lens. Another Instagram notification. It's from the ghost. This time, Athena is sitting in a booth, sticking her tongue mischievously out over her straw. She's wearing precisely the same outfit I saw her in at the reading. Lips painted scarlet, eyes glimmering.
Spotted an old friend today. I wonder if she remembers me.
I can't take this anymore. I have to know the truth. This will gnaw at me my entire life until I know, for better or worse, who or what she is. I need release. If I can't get help, I at least need answers. I need something to happen, or I'll explode. I open my phone, navigate to Athena's account, and write, "Okay, you got my attention. What do you want?" The ghost is online. She responds immediately.
"Exorcist steps. Tomorrow night, 11.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang. Episode 10. June Hayward watched Athena Liu die, but now she's convinced Athena wants to meet with her.
Athena is alive. I can think of no other explanation. The exorcist steps are our private joke. The steep, pitch-black stairs a block off the Georgetown campus, the site where Father Karras dies in The Exorcist. I know it's a trap, but I have no choice. I'm not afraid. At this point, nothing could scare me. At this point, I would love for Athena to lunge out and attack me just so I could confirm that she is real, that I'm not insane. The steps are empty. I'm about to leave when I hear her speak.
"It's so good to see you again."
It's Athena. That's undoubtedly Athena's voice.
"It's been ages."
Athena? She sounds like she's standing at the top. I dash up the rest of the steps. The streets are empty.
"I'm so glad you're a fan of my work." "Athena?"
I yell. "Where are you?"
"So."
Her voice comes from farther away this time. I hear a patter of footsteps on the stairs. Is she running from me? I want to chase her down, but I don't know where to turn.
"What would you say is your greatest inspiration?"
Athena asks suddenly. Inspiration? What game is this? But I know the right answers. I know what will lure her out.
"It's you. You know that. It's obviously you."
Athena bursts into a peal of laughter.
"So I guess my question is, why?"
"There's no reason why. I took your pages, I read them. I thought they were so brilliant, and I've always envied you, Athena. I just wanted to know what it was like. And I didn't even think about it. It just happened."
"You didn't think you were stealing my work?"
Now her voice echoes from somewhere above me. It's strangely garbled this time, like she's speaking underwater. It doesn't sound at all like her.
"So, you're sorry?"
Garbled, distorted once again.
"Are you sorry, June?"
"I'm sorry, Athena. I'm so sorry. I wish every day I could take it back. I'll do anything to make it right. I'll tell your mom. I'll tell my publisher. I'll donate everything. Every cent. Just tell me you're all right, Athena, please. I can't do this anymore." A long pause. When she at last responds, her voice has changed once again. It's lost its pitchy, artificial timbre. It sounds human, and yet completely unlike her.
"That's a confession?"
"I confess. I'm sorry, Athena. I'm so sorry. Please, come talk to me."
"I see."
A pause. Her footsteps again. She's standing right behind me.
"Thank you, June."
I turn. A figure steps out of the shadows. It's not Athena. This girl looks nothing like Athena, but I simply cannot place her. Nothing? The girl crosses her arms. Ruined my life, drove me out of publishing, and you don't even remember me? She's off the project. You won't have to deal with her anymore. Candace? Hi, Juniper. Long time no see. Ugh, the look on your face. Candace sneers. I've been looking forward to this. I don't... My brain has short-circuited. I can't articulate my confusion into questions. Why? Simple. You ruined my life, I ruin yours. I didn't even get severance. Really, Candace, I don't... God, stop lying! Candace's voice flies up several octaves then. You confessed! You finally confessed! I heard you! Tell me, how long were you planning to steal her work? How accidental was her death, really? It wasn't like that, I insist. I worked hard on that novel. It's mine. Oh, shut up. Photoshop? A borrowed login? Is that all it took? So, Athena is... dead and ash. Candace barks out a laugh. Or are you still hoping to see her ghost? But the stairs... How did you know about the stairs? It's Athena's favorite workout. She wouldn't shut up about it on Twitter. Wait, you didn't know? That's so good. I hope I got that. She straightens up. She's holding a camera. She's been recording this whole thing. She fiddles with the buttons, then plays my own words back at me. It's utterly damning. There is no denying this. Candace, I beg you, don't do this. If I don't go public, will you? I open my mouth, then close it. I can't answer that. She knows I can't answer that. Candace, please. Athena wouldn't have wanted this. Who cares about Athena? We all hated that bitch. This is for me. There's nothing I can say to that. It all boils down to self-interest. Well, I think I have what I came for. I know one thing. I will not let Candace walk away with my fate in her hands. Years of suppressed rage at being treated like a stereotype, like my voice doesn't matter, like the entirety of my being is constituted in those two words, white woman, bubble up inside me and burst. I throw myself at Candace's waist. Candace shrieks as I crash into her. We land on the ground, limbs tangled. Something crunches, the cameras, I hope. Get off me! She flings a fist at my face, but she's punching from below. It crosses my mind that we're too close to the steps. We could both tumble, or she could kick me down, or I could. If the police found me at the base of the steps, standing over Candace's shattered body, how would I explain that? A small voice whispers, "Easily. That's how." Candace shrieks and spits at my face. Get off! I don't budge. Just give it, I pant. Give it, and I'll... You fucking bitch! She bites my wrist. Pain shoots up my arm. I jerk back, shocked. She's drawn blood. Jesus fucking Christ, it's all over her teeth, all over my arm. Candace thrashes once more. My knees slip off her chest. She breaks loose, coils up, and kicks out at my stomach. Her foot lands with such force, so much more force than I thought possible from that tiny body. It doesn't hurt so much as it stuns, knocks the air out of my lungs. I reel backward, arms windmilling for balance, but the ground I thought was behind me is not there. Just empty air. The doctors let me leave the hospital after 4 days. After my clavicle and ankle have been set, and I've proven I can hop my way into and out of a car without assistance. No police were standing over my bedside when I woke up. No investigators, no journalists. Candace has played this perfectly. Any accusation I make will appear utterly groundless. From the outside, we are near strangers to each other. I look up Candace's name during the Uber ride back to my apartment, just as I've been doing every few hours since I woke up. The headline I'm awaiting tops the search results. An interview has just dropped from the New York Times. Former editor Candace Lee on Athena Lou, Juniper Song Hayward, and the Confession of a Lifetime. I'm honestly impressed. Putting aside the fact that Candace has managed to retcon her job title from assistant to editor, it's hard to get a New York Times piece published in just 4 days. But Candace had something no one else had. She had the tapes. The final paragraph following the interview mentions that Candace is working on a memoir about the whole affair. Of course. She's only begun drafting it, but multiple publishers are reportedly very interested in acquiring her manuscript. Eden is listed as one of the publishers who have reached out to Candace's agent. So here I am, finished. I crashed through 1 week, then another, with painkillers and sleep aids. Consciousness is a burden. I wake up only to eat. I don't taste the food in my mouth. When my painkillers run out and I have to face down the agony of cogitation, I while away the hours scrolling numbly through Twitter. My timeline is full of authors begging for attention as usual. The solitude wouldn't bother me so much. I'm used to being alone. I've always been alone. If I could write. But I can't write. Not now. Not knowing that I probably don't even have an agent anymore. And what's an author without an audience? I've wondered before how authors who were canceled, and I mean canceled for good reasons, like sexual harassment or using racial slurs, felt after they were iced out of publishing. I do consider suicide, but it all seems like so much trouble. It's hard to imagine a more total, eviscerating defeat. But my mind does a funny thing then. I don't spiral into despair. I don't feel the telltale symptoms of an incoming panic attack. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm utterly calm. Zen-like. I feel alive. I find myself composing sentences then, dreaming up turns of phrase, sketching out the contours of a counter-narrative. I am the victim of a dreadful hoax. I was cyberbullied, stalked, and manipulated into thinking I was going mad. Candace Lee took my love for my deceased friend and turned it into something ugly and horrible. Candace is the one who exploited me for her art, not the other way around. Because if Candace is showing off those tapes, then she's revealing that she was at the exorcist steps the night I fell. Then there's no question who that anonymous EMT caller was. And that gives me an opening to make my own accusations. The truth is fluid. There is always another way to spin the story. I will craft and sell a story about how the pressures of publishing have made it impossible for white and non-white authors alike to succeed. About how Athena's success was entirely manufactured, how she was only ever a token. About how my hoax, because let's frame it as a hoax, not a theft, was really a way to expose the rotten foundations of this entire industry. About how I am the hero in the end. I start planning my next steps. First, I'll write a proposal. I can have that done by the end of the day, or perhaps tomorrow morning. I'll spend the next 8 weeks scribbling down all my thoughts and recollections. The draft will be messy, but that's all right. This whole affair is messy. It's more important to strike while the iron's hot. Brett and I will clean up the typos as best we can, then put the manuscript on submission. Someone will buy that story. Perhaps it'll be Eden. I'd be willing to work again with Daniela, provided she comes groveling, stacks of cash in hand. But I'm expecting a choice. The offers will be many. We'll go to auction. I would not, in fact, be surprised if this project goes for more money than any of my previous works. A year later, I'll be in bookstores everywhere. The initial press coverage will be skeptical at best, scathing at worst. But some reviewer, somewhere, will give the book a closer look. They'll publish a contrarian review, because editors who want clickbait always solicit contrarian reviews. For BBC Sounds.